Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga concedes that some pupils are yet to be placed in schools. She made the comments during a briefing on her department's readiness for the 2022 academic year. The minister says the vast majority of pupils, however, have already been placed.
The biggest part of our report, which will also come from DDG Gates, about admissions. And we have to say up front, we have been able to place the majority of our learners, but provinces like Gauteng, partly Western Cape, and some areas in KZN, in your urban areas like in Durban, we are still dealing with some problems, but provinces have assured us that they're doing everything in their power, and that's why we're appealing to parents to allow provinces this week to clear off and settle those that have been admitted and those that have places. And from there, we'll be able to identify any possible places to place other learners. I know it's not very comfortable for learners, for parents to know that when Tuesday other learners are going to schools, their children are not going to school. But we are committing that by law we are compelled to find spaces for every child. So it's not their burden alone, it's our responsibility also to make sure that we find places for all the learners. And really appeal with communities to allow provinces to place learners where there are places, because there are also understandably preferences that parents have, and sometimes those preferences are every parent's preference, and therefore we are not able to use all those spaces for what the parents wish.
Motshekga says her department is fully prepared for tomorrow's school reopening.
So tomorrow we'll be receiving learners from the Free State, from Gauteng, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and Northwest, the 5 provinces. And then next week we'll be receiving the coastal provinces, which is Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Northern Cape, and Western Cape. They are all going back next week. So today we thought we should just give you a general whole school readiness presentation, which will be covered by DDG Geya, just to give you a sense of the different elements that we start working on from July as we prepare for the next year, to say how far are we with the different parts of our readiness, ranging from the delivery of books, admissions, everything that we do that would enable us to be ready for the next year.
Well, still on the reopening of schools, the Basic Education Minister also adding that her department has been exploring ways of returning schooling to normality. This is amid the COVID-19 pandemic, and as multiple schools reopen, there have been calls for the primary and secondary school levels to be back at school on a full-time basis instead of the rotational basis that we have seen under the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining us for more on the story is the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Basic Education, Bongiwe Mbingo Gigaba. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. Firstly, we've had lots of civil society organizations make a case for why they believe that the rotational learning of, the rotational teaching rather of learners has not been beneficial, particularly for those who are living in disadvantaged and poorer communities. As Parliament, do you have a view on how schooling should be taking place, given where we are in terms of the lockdown restrictions?
Hi, good evening, Kate, to you and to the viewers at home. Look, Kathy, our view has always been stable, that we want our learners at school and we want them safe. Now, the reality with the same schools that you are referring to, we are having serious challenges of overcrowding. We are now in the 3rd year of COVID-19, and we are not seeming to get it right as a country. Now, COVID-19, one of the serious regulations about it, it's an issue of social distancing. Now, in schools where you've got overcrowding, definitely you cannot comply to social distancing. So our view is that if at school will not be at risk of COVID-19, we should continue with the rotation. We should continue with the rotation because we do not have really another choice. We cannot build another school. We cannot start new infrastructure. So in the infrastructure that we have, we need to think out of the box. How do we make sure that we comply to the COVID-19 regulations?
Of course, part of what has been highlighted is that the kind of support that is needed for learners to be able to truly be able to thrive under the circumstances has not always been provided, and therefore it automatically means that those who are going to schools with greater resources have a better chance of making it than those who are not.
I want to apologize. I could not really hear you. I think there is a problem with the network. But try to cover the issue of resources, which I think that's the part that I heard you from. It's not something new in this country, and I think we need to face the realities. What is important for us? What would work for us now as the country? What would work for our children? Do we want to take a risk of sending everybody to school like normally we would have done? That is 3 years before now. And what will be the consequences for that? Because the problems with our country and us as South Africans is that if that happens, and if we've got many learners that would test positive and contract COVID-19, it's going again to be the problem that we would want to blame our government for it. And not only blame, but would want the government to give answers to that. So let us be honest and let us admit that in terms of resources, we are not equal as the country, and so is our schools. And that is not a challenge that we are facing now. So we want our learners in class, yes, and I think all of us, we want our learners in class. But do we have necessary equipment to do that? Do we have necessary classrooms for that? No. So schooling has not stopped. Schooling is continuing, and I think we need to appreciate the issue of COVID-19 is not an education problem, is not anyone's problem. It's a situation that we found ourselves in. But we need to find solutions that would be able to make our learners to get the education that they deserve. Okay.
All right. Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there because that line is just not holding up. The chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education there.